Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Gene. This is my good buddy Sammy. It is December the 16th, 2023. This is episode 22 of NHL After Math. And a happy holiday to all of you guys out there. I hope you guys are enjoying this time with family, with friends, enjoying a little bit of hockey, enjoying all the drama that's involved with hockey. Sammy, how the hell are you? How has your week been?
Man, my week was crazy. It was a very busy week, life of retail leading up to Christmas and the holiday season it's a lot. It gets very busy, so I've been run off my feet all week, and it's been good. I think every day this week I've walked at least 10 kilometers, if not more. It's been a lot of walking this week, a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of moving around, but that's all right.
Wow. And you're probably sick of the Christmas carols by now, I would imagine.
They haven't actually even turned them on yet at the store.
Really?
I'm surprised. They haven't turned them on yet. I'm expecting them to start on Monday. I'm expecting them to start this next week, because otherwise it's the last week and you're not going to play them again.
Wow, that's surprising. That's one thing that most retailers get into, like even before December. They got those tunes bellowing out, and I love it. I'm actually totally for Christmas carols. I love it. I just don't really care for it in the middle of November. If you did, like, basically my rule of thumb is the 1st of December. That's when I set up this tree. And as you notice, I got a little bit of a different background on this one because it is the holidays, which means because it is the holidays, this is the last episode we are doing, and it's likely the next episode we will do is January the 13th. We're going to take a bit of a break. Tomorrow I am going to do my final episode of Lubed for a bit as well. I don't know when I'm coming back on that. And we are going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers again. Sammy, I know I'm supposed to be biased on this channel, but the Edmonton Oilers have been a massive, massive, massive storyline. So we're going to get into that again. And I do apologize because I don't intentionally try to bring up the Edmonton Oilers, but they have been a super storyline this year with their ups and downs and all that kind of stuff. So that's the only reason why I bring them into the fold every time. I try to keep it even keel, try to keep it 32 teams on a balance. But man, the Edmonton Oilers, despite me being an Edmonton Oiler fan, have been definitely in the news lately. I guarantee you can agree with me on that.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
So anyway, let's dive into this there, Sammy. As let me get that. I'll just get that banner out. Okay. As Craig Berube was relieved of his duties a few days ago, I don't know exactly when. I think it was earlier in the week. He was relieved of his duties, replaced by an ex-Oiler, and I can't think of his name at the moment. It's not on the top, but an ex-Oiler is now the coach of the St. Louis Blues. Craig Berube got hired back in 2018 and 2019, had a historic run with this team, winning the Stanley Cup in his first year. A lot of it was on Jordan Binnington. But since then, they kind of were okay the next year, as they were first in the Central, but lost in the first round to your Vancouver Canucks. Then they were fourth in the West, lost in the first round to Colorado, and then third in the Central, lost to Colorado for a second time. Last year, didn't even qualify for the playoffs. So you can't kind of get where I'm going. Like it's just what he has done has not been replicated for quite a while. And after I read that, because at first I was like, wow, they're firing a Stanley Cup winning coach. But when I look at it, yeah, it's that whole saying, what have you done for me lately? And I kind of get it. Your thoughts there, Sammy?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I mean, I think Craig Berube is a really good coach, and I don't think their performance of the team was on him necessarily. Um, the team has just, I think, all has underperformed. Plus, also too, they've traded out most of their top guys. All right, like Tarasenko's gone. Petrangelo left, I think, right after their cup run. O'Reilly's gone. Um, a lot of the guys left, and so them having any real success beyond that is would be a challenge for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's always, it seems like, unfortunately, we witness this way too much that it's always the coach that's the scapegoat,
Yeah.
right? You're not
Well, we've
going to
hit
get
three this year already.
well, yeah, well, three and yeah, yeah. So and very acknowledged coaches too. It's not like just chums, right? Like you got Craig Berube, Stanley Cup winner. You got Woody in Edmonton, which was
You
he
know,
was a guy
he
that
was good. Yep.
he was good, and then Dean Everson in Minnesota. So I mean, like it's not like these coaches are horrible at their jobs or horrible at
No.
communicating their message. I just think, honestly, I think the message just starts drying up. They just start. It's it's almost like, well, for me, as a perspective as an Edmonton Oilers fan, because I witness this every 2 years. A new coach comes in, a new coach comes in, and the message dries up.
Yeah.
And it's you know there's a lot of good coaches that the Edmonton Oilers had along the way, like Todd McClellan, Woody. There's been some bad ones like uh, what's his name, Aikman, uh, Dallas Aiken or
Don't even know who that is. Dallas Eakins.
Dallas
Yeah.
Dallas Eakins. Yeah. So obviously there's been a couple busts, but there's been a lot of good coaches that the Oilers have lost. I can't speak for the rest of the league, but I do
Yeah.
know Craig Berube seemed to have that team going really good. Now you can call it what you will. Was it just a year that he came in and had Jordan Bennington just be lights out? Because Jordan Bennington was lights out in 2019, and he hasn't been kind of the same since then too. So there's
Yeah.
many factors, many factors.
Yeah.
But he'll probably have no problem finding a job in some other situation at some other point in time.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Same with
Um,
Woody. Same with Dean.
yeah, Woodcroft would be surprised. Dean Evison, I bet he will get a job again. I mean, John Hines came in immediately, and he's been really good for helping Minnesota. I mean, they beat Vancouver in a shootout today, which was potentially one of the most boring hockey games I've ever watched in my life, to be honest.
Was it? I saw them
It was not
shootout, and
entertaining.
then yeah, and I saw it was 1-1 and went to shootout, and Minnesota
Yeah,
got it in the shooting, got it in the skill competition. So
yeah. It wasn't an entertaining game, but
uh,
that's besides the point. I think honestly, the way that Tampa Bay is performing so far this year too, I and like John Cooper is a darn good coach, but I would not be surprised if he's out the door too by the end of it. Like if they don't make the playoffs this season, I wouldn't be surprised because I mean the way they're trending right now, like they're barely 500.
well, there's
Like they just
also
haven't been performing, and there's been all these the rumors about Stamkos too, and if they're going to keep Stamkos or not. And
yep,
you get rid of him, what do? You get rid of your captain.
yeah.
Like the team, they're starting their perennial contention. I think is starting to die out.
Oh, for
They got their
sure.
two
No,
cups.
it's
They
done.
made four Stanley Cup Finals in the span of what 8 years. They made four Cup Finals, multiple conference final appearances. You know, two cups. Whatever. President's Trophy, division championships. Like they've been a perennial contender for a decade, right?
Mhm.
And it's now the wheels got to fall off at some point.
Yep.
Same thing's kind of happening with Pittsburgh. and Washington both missed the playoffs last year. Both had won a cup or cups over the last decade, had been very good team over the last decade. And now they're Pittsburgh's 500, Washington's, I think, playing above the level that they should be. I think they're overperforming right now. I expect them to drop off, but we'll see. The way Tampa Bay is playing too, I bet they fall out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they miss the playoffs that John Cooper's out.
Yeah, that could very well be right there, Sammy. But there's also reports that a Toronto Sun reporter, Steve Simmons, wrote that the Ottawa Senators president of hockey operations and interim GM Steve Stales is considering Woodcroft as a potential new coach should they relieve.
Well, if they're talking about it and they're doing that and they're being like, oh well, we're thinking about, but that means they're going to do it.
But
Right,
again,
like the Canucks did that. The Canucks did that last year. The
Yeah.
Canucks did that last year, where they're like, "Oh, well, rumor is that they want Rick Tocchet as their coach." And
Yeah.
you ask the GM directly, no, like we trust in Boudreaux. That's our guy. Like we got his back. And then what happens? He gets fired after a game against Edmonton,
So true.
and they bring in Rick Tocchet. So that could happen too with Ottawa. I'm surprised DJ Smith has lasted this long, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know, I'm sure they play today. If they lose today, if they're talking about Woodcroft already, I wouldn't be surprised if they lose today on the hockey night in Canada, that they go sayonara and they go, hey, Woodcroft, come here.
Yeah. But that's also a question if Woodcroft wants to come in, because technically he's still going to be paid for the remainder of his contract. He could actually just sit out and enjoy time with his family.
But does he want to coach another Canadian market?
Or that too. But the thing is, if you're starting to turn down opportunities now, you're also playing a funny game too, right? Like you got to be careful with that too. So you got to take your opportunities and seize the opportunity when they do happen. Anyway, we'll move on to, I believe it's changes to the All-Star game. If I'm correct, yes, I believe so. So the All-Star game is in Canada. It's in
Toronto.
Holy Market of Toronto.
Hockey Mecca.
And they are doing something a little bit different, which I think is actually kind of cool. As they are going to be introducing a 8-event, $1 million skills competition prize. So they've always done the fastest shot, fastest skater or whatever, hardest shot, all sorts of these things. And then last year it got really, really silly. Last couple of years it got really, really silly, especially the one when they did it in Vegas and they were doing.
Oh yeah, the shooting on the Trebuchet Fountain or whatever.
Yeah,
or not
it's like
Trebuchet Fountain. Trebuchet's abandoned.
Anytime you're doing events outside of the venue, I think is ridiculous, right? So that's my opinion. And it's gone really, really south. But this year, apparently, there's going to be a $1 million prize. It's going to be, I believe, 12 players. Yeah, 12 players to compete for the overall points. February 2nd in Toronto. I like it. I think that it could add, because there's now there's meat on the bone for these guys to fight for. $1 million is a lot of dough, man. I wish I had $1 million, but I'm not even close to it.
Well, I think before the skills competition, was there even a prize at the end of it? Like, did you even get anything at the end? Like,
they when okay, so in the 3-on-3 there was a prize. I know that much.
If you're the winning team, I think got $1 million.
Yeah.
And then the MVP got a car.
A truck, yeah, or yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A vehicle.
Yeah. So there's a lot on the line for this one. So I'm going to be intrigued by it.
What I also like that they're doing for the All-Star game itself, I don't know if you were planning on talking about this either, but that they are going back to the draft.
Yes. Actually,
that they're not doing, okay, here's the divisions, 4 divisions, and you vote whoever's in.
Yeah.
right? They're
Still
changing
do the
it.
3-on-3 though too.
It's still 3-on-3, and it's still going to be 4 teams. And I think it's still going to be you vote like for somebody from the division to be captain from each division. So I think it'll technically be 4 divisions,
Mhm.
but it's going to be 4 teams, and I think a captain, one person from each division. So just for example, McDavid, we'll say Matthews, freaking uh, Artemi Panarin, and McKinnon, just for example. Those 4 guys, they'll be the captains of each for their division, their team, and then anybody from any division can actually be drafted by that player into their team. So Artemi Panarin could have Ilias Pettersson on his team, right? Connor McDavid could end up with Andrei Vasilevsky on his team, or something like that, right?
Okay.
I
Okay.
think, to my understanding, I think that's how it's going to work. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be like Pacific Division only, Atlantic only, or whatever. It's going to be like, each captain gets to
Okay.
pick
Okay.
their
Because
team.
I honestly thought it was going to be a regular 5-on-5 game, and then they would have the
No,
3-on-3 tournament as well. Like,
I don't think so. I think it's still going to be like the same style,
okay,
the 3-on-3 tourney.
not just
And then they're going to have,
in
but
a
it's going to be
blender.
not division versus division. It's going to be like the old style where, well, not the old style. They only did this like 2 or 3 times. When they didn't do East versus West, and it was the same thing.
Yeah.
Team, what was it? Team Stahl versus Team Chara or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Team Taves versus Team Felino or something. I think the one
Back
year
when
too.
Phil
But
Kessel was drafted last and got the car, and then Alex
yeah,
eventually was upset because he never got the car and he wanted the car. And yeah, I get
oh,
it. I get it. So it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely interested to seeing how this tournament thing is. I guess it's an elimination tournament. So basically, let's just put, for example, I guess they'll have all. But the thing is it's 12. So obviously, some players are getting buys to the next level because it either has to go 8 and 16 and 32, right, to have it.
well, to my understanding, from what I read, it's
Or is
just
it
however you place. If first, second,
okay?
third, you get like 5 points for first place.
Okay, and then
You know,
they'll take the highest points, and then they
second,
move on to the next round.
three for first or for third place, and then and
Gotcha,
fourth
gotcha,
through fourth and fifth. I think fourth is 2 points, fifth is 1 point, and then 6
gotcha.
through 12, you don't get any points. And so I think that's how it's going to work.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm actually intrigued in watching it because you know what? They're always. I've always liked the All Star game. I've always liked the skills competition. I'm just a diehard NHL fan,
Yeah,
as you are probably. But
yeah,
I've
absolutely.
I've heard a lot of naysayers throughout the years, like, oh, it's so stupid and so silly and blah blah blah. And I usually just button up and say, oh, it's not that bad. But realistically, if the amount of people that are saying it is a bit of a message sending, like, yeah, maybe there is some tweaks that they need to make to it. So we'll see how that all plays out as we move forward there, Sammy. The Board of Governors had their meetings on, I guess, a couple weeks ago now. As we go now to a bi-weekly schedule. I think this was like last week sometime. In the discussion, they discussed the cap, an in-season tournament, which we already discussed, which when I put this on there, I thought it was kind of like the NBA style, and I was not very pleased. But when I found out that it was an international thing, I'm okay with.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the World Cup hockey.
Yeah. And then expansion. And so some of the things that I took out of it is the NHL holding a 14 tournament, international tournament. It's going to include United States, Canada, Sweden, and Finland, as we were talking a little bit earlier. The budget for the cap, everything has been kind of paid back in escrow from the players now. So from 83.5 million, it is going up next year to 87.7. So that's a good thing, especially if you're
That's
an
the
employee.
projection anyway.
Well,
Anyway.
is this the projection or is this the actual reality?
I think that's what they said the projection is. We won't
Yeah.
know 100% what the cap will be until they actually
Okay.
officially say this is what
Fair
we're at
enough,
next year.
but it's honestly when they have a projection, they're going to be off by 200,000, 300,000. So it's going to be pretty
Something
good.
something like that.
So that's looking good, and it looks like things are starting to kind of get back to the post world after the whole COVID thing and all that kind of stuff that really hampered the NHL and the players and everything. And it looks like the NHL is starting to, well, the one thing the NHL is, they seem to flourish no matter what. And it surprises me because we were always talking about how they struggle in U.S. markets. And really, U.S. markets gobble up. Okay, there's what, 7 Canadian teams? The other 30,
Yep.
out of the
Yep.
32,
Yep.
the other 32 are American teams. So for them to be flourishing, they're that's one thing that Bettman is doing well. But the one thing that I have my grievances with Bettman is it just doesn't make sense that since he's tendered that job, no Canadian team has won a Stanley Cup, and that really kind of like, yes, there's been teams that made the final, and I don't want to say that there's a favorism there because really, if there was a favorism, Connor McDavid would not have been drafted to the Edmonton Oilers. There's no chance. But yeah, there's been it makes you think like
I mean, yeah, it's kind of.
it shouldn't happen like that.
I mean, yeah, like it's kind of weird, but I don't think that there's some crazy conspiracy that the NHL hates Canadian teams. I know I've talked to, like, I have some other buddies that I've talked to, and they're pretty gun ho that the NHL has purposefully somehow made Canadian teams not win the Stanley Cup, and I'm like, no. I'm like, if you go back to the times of the Canadian teams have made the Stanley Cup, or even conference finals. Edmonton made the conference final, 2 years ago against the Avalanche, and the Avalanche were an insanely good team. They weren't being stopped. That was just not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Montreal made the Stanley Cup final, I think, the year before that against Tampa. And while that was a fun Cinderella run, nobody was beating Tampa Bay that year again. The last time, I can't remember the last time a Canadian team made the conference. Oh, Winnipeg in 2018 made the conference final against Vegas. And Vegas plowed through them, lost in the Cup final, but just manhandled Winnipeg. I can't remember conference finals before that, but Vancouver made the Stanley Cup final in 2011. And while on paper the Canucks were a better team, they were so injured going into that final, and Boston played very physical that they just bowled through the Canucks. The first 2 games Vancouver won, sure, but they were close games. Vancouver won game 1, 1-0, game 2, 3-2 in overtime. Boston then destroyed Vancouver in game 3 and 4, and then destroyed Vancouver in game 6 and game 7 to win the cup. Vancouver just fell apart. In 2006 or 2007, Anaheim was arguably one of the best rosters to ever win a cup. Their team was ridiculous. They bowled through Ottawa, who also had a good team, but Anaheim was just better. 2006, Edmonton was very close, and you can argue that if Dwayne Rollison didn't get injured,
Mm-hmm.
that maybe they beat Carolina, right? 2004, Calgary should have won.
Yeah.
I still think Marty Gelinas scored in game 6. Still think they scored, but in the end, Tampa Bay ended up winning it. Whatever. Yeah. And then a Canadian team didn't make the final before that until 94, and Vancouver was inches away from tying to game 7 against the Rangers. And then who knows? Does Vancouver win that cup in 94? But even then, if they win in 94, that's still 30 years ago by the time the cup is awarded this season. It's still 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that there's a conspiracy. Canadian teams just haven't been as good.
Yeah.
Or they've just ran into a team that was better.
And my arguing point to that, to all the conspiracy theorists out there, is don't you think it would be a little bit more prevalent after 30 years that there was something going up? Like 30 years, you don't think something would have came out of the woodwork like, yeah, he is definitely cheating us out of cups?
Yeah.
I can't see it.
No, I don't either.
I can't see it.
And like we're entering a point where Canadian teams, for the most part, are good again.
Mm-hmm.
Like Toronto's still a very good team. People might laugh at that, but they're still a very good team. Yeah. And they have a very good shot at winning the Stanley Cup. And I think people underestimating them, I think, as works in their favor. Exactly. Montreal is a young up-and-coming team. They will be in contention within a few years, guaranteed. Sure. Vancouver is a very good team this year. Whether they can make a deep playoff run this year or not, I think we are entering a stage where the Canucks will become a perennial contender again. Edmonton is a contender. They've had a bad start to the season, which I know we'll get into, but they should be a perennial contender for a number of years, right?
Yeah.
Calgary, I think, has fallen off, and they might be entering a rebuild. Winnipeg is surprisingly good this year. They're still in contention. And Ottawa should be better. They should be. But we are also entering a point where the Senators, I think, again, a year or two from now, will also be a playoff team and will start being a contender. So
Yeah. I think what the Senators need to do, like, I thought they
need a new coach.
Yeah, you asked me back in the summertime. Well, yes, that's one factor. Definitely they need a new coach. But you asked me in the summertime, and I was like, wow, Tarasenko, Giroux, like, but maybe
Jacob Chikrin.
Yeah, but maybe you need to start aligning with younger players for their what's our young star? Yeah, what I'm drawing a blank.
You got Josh Norris, you got Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, maybe you got to start surrounding them with players around their age a little bit, because you think, okay, well, Tarasenko, but Tarasenko's probably past his prime. Giroux's past his prime.
But they're still performing.
They're still performing, but they're going to start dissipating, right? You need to.
100%.
Chikrin's probably right in his prime, I would think.
He's starting for sure.
As far as age wise goes, so yeah, I think
they need goaltending.
They need goaltending, and they need a coach. I think 100% what you just said. So
I also expected Korpisalo to be much better for them. He's underperformed. I think he's just. I think the whole team in general is just underperforming. I think if the team starts to perform better and the team starts to build confidence, I think we can start to see Korpisalo return to form and kind of return to how we're used to Korpisalo playing.
Yeah,
he still got that in him, and if he can play that way, Ottawa will win their fair share of games.
For sure, Sammy, for sure. All right, let's go into I hate to do this to you, Sammy. I really do. The resurgence of the Edmonton Oilers. I don't do this on purpose, man. I started thinking, I'm like,
I know
Sam's probably going to hate me here because
the Oilers are a very interesting storyline.
They
are. Like, it's a fascinating. It's one of the most fascinating storylines of a team's performance, and like their whole performance, not just like holy crap they're playing good or holy crap they're playing bad or they're kind of okay. They've been everything.
Yeah, as long as you understand, I'm not being a homer trying to put this content on my channel.
I understand because it's really interesting, and I talk about it at work with with Matt and a couple other guys at work. I talk to them all the time about this, and I talk to other buddies outside of work about hockey and about the Oilers all the time because they're a fascinating team to look at. Everyone picks them at the start of the season to win the cup, not just be a contender, go to the final, but to win the Stanley Cup. So many people picked them to win the cup. I didn't pick them to win the cup, but I was like, they're going to the final, like for sure. I thought they're going there, right? And then they started off the season awful. Like they looked like how they did 10 years ago when they were amping up to get McDavid. Like they were bad.
Yes.
And I remember we talked 2 months ago about this and we're, what is going on?
Yeah.
This team should be performing so much better. They have the talent to perform better, but their goaltending's been crap and their defense has done nothing. And and again too, McDavid hasn't put up points, Draisaitl hasn't put up points, like nobody's performing. Mm-hmm. And then they fire their coach. They win their first 2 games under Knobloch.
I've got some numbers to punch in here when we get into that,
but they want me to go ahead with the numbers? They won what, their first 2 games under him?
Okay, so yeah, I think okay. So I don't got that, but I do have. Okay, so they started off with a 3-10 record under Jay Woodcroft. Mm-hmm. The nail in the coffin was a game against San Jose when they lost that. That literally costed him his career. That would have made them 3-9, or no, 2. That would have made them 2-10 at that time. They end up winning the game against Seattle, but it was still already at that point in time enough was enough. Since then, Knobloch has took him to a 10-4 record. Just came off an 8-game winning streak. playing lights out hockey. A lot of this is contributed to Paul Coffey's defensive prowess of what he's telling the players to do and
Mm-hmm.
all that. Because I'm telling you right now, you're seeing Darnell Nurse look like that $9 million D-man. You're looking at Bouchard looking like
Bouchard's been
yes.
incredible
You're
lately.
looking at
He's been incredible.
yes. Still, they have what I witnessed last night against against Tampa Bay. When you watch Vasilevsky, there's a difference. You can tell a premier goalie and a backup goalie. And I hate to say it, Stuart Skinner's a good goalie, but he's a backup goalie. He's not an elite goaltender. When you watch Vasilevsky stop 57 saves out of the 53 or something like that, I don't know the exact numbers, but it was right. Like they peppered him with about over 50 plus shots that last game, and they lost 7-4. And then I was going to say Jay Woodcroft. Then Stuart Skinner managed to let in 6. I'm not going to count the empty netter. Let in 6 on something like 24 shots or something like that. I don't know, ridiculous. He owned up to it in the post game, saying, "Yeah, I was the one that lost this game for the boys," and he felt like probably a big ass because that was the end of the streak, and they were hoping to get to 9, which would tie an Edmonton Oiler record, and potentially get to the 10th one in a row, which would create a brand new franchise record for the Oilers. Never happened. Like I said on my channel yesterday, Sammy, I don't care about the streaks. I don't care about individual performance. I care about one thing. I want to see a Stanley Cup with this team at the end of or middle of June. That's my only goal. What we saw last year with McDavid and Nugent Hopkins and Draisaitl, all 3 of them getting 100 points, great, but they didn't get a cup, right? So to me, it means nothing, like for me. So, your thoughts, Sammy? I know I'm probably a little bit more detailed because I follow them more immensely than you do, just like you follow your Canucks more immensely than I do. Your
Yeah.
thoughts on what you witnessed this year, the ups and downs, and the huge ups and downs. Like we're talking Black Diamond ups and downs, right? Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, like I already mentioned a lot of what happened. I already mentioned a lot about my views and what happened throughout the beginning of the season, but like I said, Woodcroft gets fired, Knobloch gets hired. I'm pretty sure they won their first 2 games, and then they lost like their next 3 or 4 under Knobloch, I think,
Yeah,
and then they went on that 8-game winning streak, right? And then they
yeah.
lost their last game, something like that. And it was like immediately I was like, okay, oh yeah, a new coach, you get that bump, but how long does that bump last, right? So they won their first couple games. Okay, good for them. But then they lost a few in a row again. I was like, oh, is this actually just how Edmonton is? Are they actually just not that good of a team, regardless of coach? And then they went 8 in a row. And it's like, okay, well, this is the Edmonton we expected, right? This is the Oilers team that we expected. That Tampa Bay game, I think, might be a little alarming. But at the same time, every team has bad games. It's just every team has bad games. Whether you're a good team or you're a bad team, you're going to have good and bad games, right? Like Vancouver, I'm happy they're a good team right now. They had that game against New Jersey last week that they lost 6-5. New Jersey's a good team. Vancouver's a good team. Vancouver just couldn't keep the puck out of the net.
They crushed the Panthers, and you got to remember
They shut out.
Shut them out 4-0. Like I mean,
they shut out Florida 4-0 this couple days ago, and Florida's one of the top teams in the NHL too right now. They beat Tampa Bay very convincingly, 4-1. And Tampa Bay, they're not playing that as great this year, but it's still Tampa Bay, right? Tampa Bay beat Vancouver in their first meeting of the season. But they beat them still. You're going to have good games, you're going to have bad games, right? San Jose has had some good games recently. They're still a terrible team, but they've had some good games recently, right? Yeah. Chicago's a bad team, but they've had a couple good games.
And one thing, getting back to San Jose, one thing, and this happened a few weeks ago, but Mike Greer actually walked into the dressing room And he goes, okay, guys, like, I know we don't have our elite players like any other team does, but we don't have to play like losers. And I
Yeah.
think that was quite a strong message. Like, we're still
Yeah, he did
NHL.
that.
Go
He
ahead.
did that after their back-to-back 10-goal losses when they lost 10-1 to Vancouver and 10-2 to
Oh,
Pittsburgh. He
10 to
did that.
1. Holy. I didn't realize
They,
the background behind it. Holy
they
smoke.
lost 10. They lost 10-1 to Vancouver, and then 2 days later they lost 10-2 to Pittsburgh. It was bad. Like
That
I've
is.
never. It's pretty rare to score 10 goals or more in an NHL game.
Mhm.
I've never seen the Canucks do it in my life. The last time Vancouver had done it was in like 93, I
Yeah.
think, or something like that. 93, 94, somewhere in that range against Calgary. They won like 11-2.
Yeah.
But that is multiple years before I was born.
Well, and to put it in perspective, the only time I recall it is, and I think the Oilers were also thumped by the same team. I don't know if they won or they lost. I can't remember, but I think they could have lost this game. But I remember there was an 11-2 game against the Hartford Whalers. I don't know who won that one. Way back, obviously, when Hartford Whalers were still a team, right? So
So
that's probably
I've
before you were
never.
born.
Well before. I've never seen Hartford move to Carolina in '96, and I was born shortly thereafter.
Okay, so
But I've never seen Vancouver score 10 goals. Anybody's rarely seen 10 goals scored. Pittsburgh
Mhm,
won against Detroit last year, like 11-2, which was great. I watched that one. That was crazy.
mhm.
Um, and then there was a few years ago, Montreal got shut out 10-0 against Columbus. I think. I think they lost 10-0 to Columbus, and then I think a couple days later they beat like Florida 10-1 or something like that. Like a couple days later, like it was weird. Montreal lost 10-0 and then won 10-1, something like that. It was
Oh, wow.
weird, but it's rare that it happens. And
Yeah,
for a team to lose back-to-back games with allowing 10 goals to be scored is insane. Like the last time that happened was in like the 60s, and it was Boston that lost back-to-back games like that. Like it hasn't happened, in 60 years.
yeah, yeah,
So it was no wonder the GM goes in there and goes, "What are you guys doing?
yeah.
What's
And
happening?"
we're talking about the NHL present day, which is a collection of worldwide athletes, not like it was
Yeah,
back in the 60s where North America, actually, probably back in the 60s, it was probably your best athletes that were within
80%
your city.
Canadian. Yeah,
Yeah,
or like it
well,
was like
within your
80. The league was like 80% Canadian back then,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. And now you got, yeah. It's a funny story here. I was watching, to kind of get off topic, but I was watching Timo Solani and Jeremy Roenick do the sandbagger on Spitting Chicklets with Ryan Whitney and Bissonnette.
Opposite, yeah.
This is Bissonnette asked him about a particular speeding ticket he got in Finland. Now it's a little bit different than North America. In Finland, they base it off of your income. So Timo
Really?
Solani, yeah. So Timo Solani was doing 75 in a 50 zone and got a ticket for $55,000.
Holy!
And then his buddy that he knows that doesn't make the same amount of money got a ticket for the same amount, same ticket, $127. Because it's all based off of the income. It's not based on. When I saw that, I was like, "Holy smokes!"
Yeah, that's nuts.
I kind of get the concept behind it because you got guys shooting their Lamborghini over in Vancouver on the Patello Bridge multiple times. I've watched this on the news. The guy clocked at 180 and gets his ticket, and they impound his car and all that kind of stuff. But slap on the wrist. The guy who owns a Lamborghini is obviously a multimillionaire, right? I kind of get that concept, but it's still very unfair that just because you earn X amount of dollars, you get slapped with like $55,000 fine. Like, holy cow,
I think
for
that's a big ticket.
15 miles over the limit, man. Like,
Big ticket.
oh, yeah, you should watch it. The sandbagger that they did with that. That was good. Anyway, Sammy, I think we're going to wrap her up here. We'll get into the holidays. Any plans for the holidays for you?
Just hanging out with the family, doing family stuff, and Nothing too crazy. Hang out, drink some eggnog, eat some chocolate.
Might have to have you over, and we'll do some eggnog and whatnot, and maybe
Play some shell.
yeah, yeah. By the way, I do play. I'm getting good at the Michigan, by the way, but that's another story. Anyway,
You're
if you
playing
play,
NHL 24, right? Where you can
yeah,
just make it
yeah.
one button.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm good at it. I couldn't do it.
Don't forget when pulled off like 3 Forsbergs against you in one game when you have to press like 4 different buttons to do that move, and
Yeah,
you were
yeah,
livid.
yeah.
You
Oh yeah,
came to work the next day and you weren't very
I-
happy when you started going off on me at work, and I'm like, be better.
yeah. So anyway, if you want to look for me, if you guys play and you want to look for me, my username is Aftermath on there. I use our channel name. The Aftermath is, I think, the E in Aftermath is a 3 though, so it's a little bit awkward. But yeah, I'm totally up for playing any of you guys out there. I use the New York Rangers as my outfit in arena because I love their song when they score. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I love that. So
Fair enough.
I always use that, and I can't just always be an Oiler homer and all that kind of stuff. So, you guys want to play me? I'm on there. Sammy, I'm wishing you all the best in the new year and a very happy holidays. Send us on our way.
Yeah, well, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate this time of year. It's a wonderful time of year. Holidays this time of year is awesome. I personally love December and love the time of year. It just everything feels positive and everything feels happy. Just it's a great time of year, and so hopefully you can feel that spirit too. And yeah, happy holidays. Hope you have a wonderful and prosperous new year.
And also, guys, remember it's also the spirit of giving. If you know someone in need, try to help them out, and just it'll give you warmth in your heart, and you go on, and a few dollars out of your pocket to help somebody that's in need isn't going to hurt, or try to contribute some of your time to help someone. Anyway, guys, I think we're done. We will see you guys sounding
In
like
the new year.
in the new year anyway. You guys take care. You guys have a great night. Enjoy the Oiler game, those of you who are watching it, as they take on the Panthers in 3 hours and 15 minutes. And you guys have a good night. We will talk soon.